Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I'm the head coach at G.R.A.C.E Financial Coaching. I help the financially stuck master their income without dismantling their lifestyle. Today, I am super excited to welcome my friend JD. JD is the founding coach of Hero Financial Life Coaching. After 8 years of active duty Air Force service, JD left the military to pursue his passion of helping people with their finances. His mission is to guide America's heroes, military, first responders, etc., to become the heroes of their own financial journey through habits, education, resources, and opportunities. JD is currently pursuing a bachelor's in communication and leadership from the Moody College at the University of Texas at Austin. Sometimes Austin seems like its own state, right?
Very much so.
It could be its own country, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, it's definitely different from the rest of the state of Texas. So,
Right. Absolutely. That's what I hear. Well, awesome. So tell us about how you got started with financial coaching, because obviously being in the military is a full-time job. So how did you even come about finding out? A lot of people don't even know what a financial coach is.
yeah, so I guess it really comes down to COVID. Um, COVID shut everything down, and I had a lot of time to myself and my family. And because we couldn't go anywhere, the only way to get out of the house was to get in the car and drive. So my wife and I spent a lot of time in the car just cruising around in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota, where I was stationed at the time, and I wasn't really loving where I was at with the military, and I didn't see myself going 20 years in active duty service. And so it really came down to, well, what do I really want to do? What am I passionate about? And I remember my wife asking me the question, if money was not an option, money didn't have anything to do with what you wanted to do, what would you do? I thought, I talk to people about their money every day at work. I would love to just talk with people about money.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's a
just
big
get
topic
up
in the
on it.
military. I don't know, because you're bringing in people from so many different backgrounds. I don't know why, but it always seems to be a problem on some level or another. I've had military clients who literally have had $80,000 in their bank account and haven't done a damn thing with it. And I've had people who have gone out and bought $80,000 cars, so
Yeah, yep,
there's just a disparity, but I think, and you tell me what you think, but the common thread is the lack of education about money.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And most military members come in right out of high school
that's true.
or right out of college if they've
Mhm.
done ROTC, right? Um, this is their first time a lot of the time being on their own. And for most of us, whether you've been in the military or not, you weren't really taught how to manage your money.
Yeah.
And if you go to many, many bases around the United States and even outside of the US, um, there's all kinds of credit card companies, automotive dealers that are right outside the gate of the base or the Army post. I'm sure with your husband being in the Navy, you've probably seen some of that around
Yeah.
the Navy
There's one
bases as
there's
well.
one business that you missed, though, the strip club.
Yes, yes. I could. How could I forget about this? The
Right.
strip
There's
club. I
always one. I should say there's always at least one.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yep.
Yeah, and they know that these young folks have money. Many of them are required to live in the barracks or in dorms where they're not paying for utilities, they're not paying for rent. So what else are they putting their money towards? If they're getting a paycheck,
Right. It's,
right? I mean,
yeah, it's the disposable it's probably the appearance of a lot of disposable income, or the feeling of a lot of disposable income that I think, again, trickles through all ranks, because
yeah,
I've worked with enlisted, with officers, very high ranking officers, and It's just the feeling of there's always going to be another paycheck coming. And now versus years past when there was a government shutdown, a lot of times now moving forward, the previously, I should say, the military stopped getting paychecks during some of those government shutdowns, depending on what they were being shut down for. And now
Yeah.
with the backlash that happened in the last probably 8 to 10 years, God, I can't believe it's been that long. Military will continue to receive paychecks even through government shutdowns.
Yeah.
And so now the mentality of there is always another paycheck coming is really truly a reality. As long as you don't get kicked out, there's always another paycheck coming. But how far are we living into that next paycheck?
Right.
And USAA and
Absolutely.
Navy Fed do a great job of allowing people to live into that next paycheck because they also know the next paycheck's coming.
Yep. Yeah. The thing that kills me is, and I've tried to talk with some of the ROTC leadership here at the University of Texas, and they pretty quickly shut me down because, oh, well, we've got people from USAA that come and talk to our folks. They're not teaching them anything.
No.
All they're doing is presenting them with a whole slew of products.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
teaching anybody how to manage their money. They're just saying, hey, here's credit card opportunities, here's insurance opportunities, here's fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
Which, as far as the insurance goes, yes, that's a great thing. And there's investment opportunities with both of those organizations as well, which is great. But where's the learning? Where's the teaching happening? It's not.
Right.
And that's where people get themselves in trouble because they don't know. All they know is, I've got money and I want that thing.
Usually, or I want to go here, or I want to do this, or I want to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when during COVID, you realized that financial coaching was kind of in your blood already. I'm guessing you went through some sort of coach training certification, and then did you get to utilize those skills while you were still active duty?
Yeah. So yeah, I went through some training through Dave Ramsey's program. Um, Big fan of Dave and what he does and what he teaches. And from there, just started talking with people more regularly to try and, not only for myself to make it feel a little more normal that, hey, this is going to be my job, but
Right.
to just get the message out there, to talk to people. I mean, almost 80% of military members have some kind of debt and are stressed about it. And then recently, in the past few months, as I've transitioned into specifically trying to work with military members and first responders, almost 80% of actually, it's over 80% of first responders have some form of debt and are stressed
Wow.
about it.
Oh my gosh.
And these are people who obviously I've served with side by side. My parents were first responders when I was a young man. I've stood shoulder to shoulder with police officers to show my support for them during massive protests. I understand the stress that they go through. I've seen it firsthand. I deal with it, right? I mean, having served in the military, I've dealt with it. Having to leave my family, leave my home for months at a time, life continues.
Yeah, I mean, even with
Whether
first
you're there or not.
responders. Oh, yeah, exactly, whether you're there or not. Police don't often get called for chunks of time, but firefighters. I don't think people realize if there's even just a regular firefighter, right? Not forest fire for forestry or anything like that. If there's a event somewhere, so an example would be a hurricane in Florida, or there's a hurricane going through Texas right now as we're recording this. They'll get calls, regular firefighters, paid firefighters in a city, multiple states away, they'll see if they can get that fire department to come and help the fire department that's been affected by the natural disaster.
Yep.
I have had friends where their husbands have been gone for 3 months. And I'm like, what? You're not military. Where are you going for 3 months? And it's like, oh, hurricane, the firehouse was destroyed. Or even if the firehouse wasn't destroyed, these guys' homes were destroyed. So now because they're focused on their families, the local firehouse is not staffed. And so those guys come in and staff. Sometimes they're actually helping the Red Cross and stuff like that. But people don't realize that, firefighters may not be, and then forest fires, forget about it. I lived in California for 5 years. Those guys could be gone for 9 to 16 months.
Yep.
It's crazy. That's more than you are allowed to do on a deployment these days. 16 months. They don't let you do 16 months anymore. And so I don't think people realize that, yes, of course, there's the daily stress of being a police officer, of being a firefighter in a major city. And then there's the, hey, if you're a firefighter, forestry, regular military, you're getting pulled away from home for months on end. What effect does that have financially when someone really, let's say somebody's married, has a family? What effect does that have when they can't focus on the finances from their perspective?
I mean, it just increases stress, right? Whether we like to admit it or not, to some level, we're all creatures of control. We want to feel like we're in control of things, right? And being pulled away from your family for weeks, months at a time, that's an uncontrollable. And when you're hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars in debt, that's something that's definitely feeling uncontrollable.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, you leave home for months at a time, well, life continues at home. It might feel paused for you because you're not there, but life continues, which means if you're a homeowner, your AC might be going out, your water heater might be going out.
Yep.
You might have a hurricane come through and rip all the shingles off of your roof, so you're going to have to get your roof redone. Fill in the blank. Your spouse might get into a car accident.
Yep. Somebody might lose a job. The kids are going to get sick. All of that stuff that happens on a regular basis is happening.
Yep.
It doesn't get put on hold. So the stress is definitely the through line for everybody in these particular jobs. What do you think? What do you know? How do you know that getting finances organized can help? In what way can this help people?
Well, from personal experience, I've been deployed. My last assignment in Europe, I was gone for weeks and months at a time on a regular basis. It was my job to be gone. If I was at home station, it was preparing to be gone. And having my finances in the right place, not having debt, was a huge stress relief for my wife and I. Our conversations when I wasn't working and I could call home in the evening didn't revolve around our money. We were able to strictly focus on, well, how are the kids doing? How are you doing? Are you getting help? Do you need any help? My wife and I are really, really good at not asking for help from other people.
You're either really, really good or really, really bad.
Yeah, probably the latter.
Yep.
But a lot of the time, the conversation would turn to that. What do you need? And then I was able to reach out to friends in the area to say, hey, look, my wife could really use some time with another adult. Would you mind reaching out to her and scheduling something?
Yeah.
My last trip that I was away for about three and a half months. My wife didn't want to deal with having to cook meals every day, 7 days a week. And so she hired a friend.
Oh, wow.
And she would pay a friend her friend was obviously going to go to the grocery store anyways, was going to make a meal for her family anyways. So my wife just said, hey, I'll pay you X amount of dollars every week, and you make me 3 meals ready to go. That all I have to do is throw it in the oven to warm it up, or put it on a plate and throw it in the microwave.
Yeah. What a relief, because you guys have, very young kids. And so,
Yes.
if home chef is not readily available where you're stationed, that's amazing. That's fantastic. I've actually noticed some local, like, ready to go food places popping up near us. And I'm kind of wondering if that is happening other places, or if that is strictly related to me being in the largest military town in the country.
Very well could be. I would hope, because obviously it's not just military members as we're having, this conversation. It's
Right.
beyond military members.
Yeah.
Um, but and other to get back to your question, other experiences. I remember being deployed and living in a giant barracks, and the walls and doors are paper thin. So I'm walking down the hall to the shower room to clean myself up from work so that I can go to bed. And all I'm hearing through each door is men fighting with their spouses about
Ugh.
money. Why did you spend that? Why didn't you do this? And it's just yelling and screaming is all I can hear on one side, right?
Right. You can't hear the
I'm
other
not
side
even
of the
hearing I'm
conversation.
not even
Right.
hearing the full conversation.
Yeah.
So it's just I've seen the stress, right? Nobody wants to yell and scream at somebody that they love. But when the stress gets to us and we combined money stress with the stress of not being home, which feels completely out of control, or the stress of fill in the blank because life is life and it throws curveballs at us every day. Your finances are something that you can control.
Yeah. It is. Right. Are there things that are going to happen that you can't control? Yes. The water heater breaking after you bought it last year and it is out of warranty on day 366. That sucks. You got a bad water heater and you're a day out of warranty. And that has happened to me where literally we had a part in my car. I think it was the CV axle go bad. And there was a 30-day warranty on parts and labor. It literally broke on day 31. And I was livid, absolutely livid. This is $800, right? $700. This is
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
water heater servicing a 2,000 square foot house or a family of 5 or, 3 teenager, God forbid, like the water heater goes out and you've got 2 or 3 teenagers at home. Oh my God. Like it's just a water heater, but the circumstances you're in escalate
yep,
how bad it is,
yep.
And so, I had a woman tap my bumper, God, 9 months ago, older woman, to be honest, she probably should not have been driving, and she tapped my bumper, and there was a couple little pieces of paint that flaked off. The car was paid for. The car was 10 years old already, right? I was like the only thing that made me call the police and file a police report was because when she got out of the car, she yelled at me. I was in front of her, hence her hitting my bumper. And then she said, "My husband told me I would do this again." And I was like, "Let me just get a police report just to be safe." But again, so that was the only thing that escalated the situation. I didn't care that 3 things of paint had flaked off. She hadn't even bent the license plate frame. Like it was nothing, and the car is paid off. And it's, it's a Volvo. I'm driving it into the ground anyway. And so, but if that had been a new car with a $800 a month payment, which is the average payment right now as we're recording this, I would have been having a heart attack, crying, freaking out, and my husband wasn't home. He was gone. And I would have been dealing with that all by myself, and it would have just the whole escalation, the emotional side of it. And then if you are married and you're dealing with something alone, it just makes it that much more stressful. But again, didn't have the car payment. Car was already paid off for years. Didn't particularly care about the paint. And so aside from the lady yelling at me, I just went on my daily routine after that.
Yep.
So it makes it I couldn't control I think my point is I couldn't control the lady tapping my bumper and then coming out of the car and yelling at me in the middle of the street. But I could control the fact that that car was paid off.
Yep.
Controlled that a lot earlier. Get tapped in the bumper, not the end of the world.
Right.
Could have had it repainted, didn't. It's fine. No one even notices. So
And it really didn't affect your emotion.
No. Aside from her coming out of the car yelling at me, which I was quite taken aback by because she was a lot shorter than me. No, aside from that, I was totally fine. I actually had a meeting with one of our colleagues, a coach who you know, and I had to cancel it because I was waiting for the police officer to show up. So just to do the report, just to be safe. And so I called him, and he's like, "Who's yelling at you in the background?" Yeah, she was on fire that she hit me. So, but again, it really, aside from that, pulling into the parking lot of the closest business, waiting for the police officer who did calm her down, thank goodness. It really, I missed one meeting with one of our colleagues. You know what I mean? Like, it really
Yep.
didn't affect me. It did not carry through or anything like that. So, but speaking of dumb things that people have done, JD, what would you say is the dumbest thing you've ever done with money?
Well, continuing on this theme that we've created ourselves here about emotion, uh, emotion has been the dumbest thing that I've done with money. Giving into emotion.
Mm.
When I first got my assignment to go to North Dakota, instead of doing the sensible thing and doing some research about the area that I was going to be living in, I just thought North Dakota equals a lot of snow. We have to get something with four-wheel drive. At the time, we had two sedans. So I tell my wife, I say, hey, we need to go get a four-wheel drive. And she says, well, if you think so, I'm like, yep, I think so. We got to go get this car, Dodge Nitro.
Oh, I forgot about those.
My sister-in-law had one and she raved about it, and I was like, that's the one. It's pretty small, compact, but it's got four-wheel drive. It's got enough room that we can put stuff in the back for the kids. And it's got the automatic switch in it. You don't have to lock in the front hubs or anything for four-wheel drive. You just turn the switch and the computer does it for you, which
Wow.
was super simple for my wife, right?
Yeah, the older if people don't realize, if you're driving a Subaru that's all-wheel drive anyway, like, we've got an old beat up pickup truck that does have four-wheel drive, but you have to, like, put it in neutral and not be on a
Right.
steep incline, like,
Yeah,
and then
and
you got to sit
get
there
out
and
of
you
the
gotta wait.
vehicle and turn the hubs on the
Yeah,
front
or
wheel. Yep.
right, and, like, so you've gotta, like, yeah, so to not have to think about that, especially in an area where you could get bad weather, that would be huge.
Yep. So my wife fights back and says, no, one, we can't afford it. And two, I don't like that she had gone and test driven one and she's like, I don't like it.
Mm.
And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. And my wife, the saint that she is, gave in to my peer pressure to keep the peace and just said, all right, whatever, we'll do it. So we end up with this. Honestly, I don't even remember how much it was at this point. I don't remember how much the loan was, but we ended up getting a car loan, which she didn't want, but I was insistent that we needed. We get up to North Dakota, and I start to realize very quickly that not only does she not like this car or the payment, I don't like this car, and I hate the payment.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, we started really quickly. Like, how can we get rid of this payment as fast as possible?
Ah.
So we start paying it down. We ended up paying it down, paid it off within the year of realizing we absolutely hate this vehicle. Um, Paid it off. Went and traded it in for, I don't even remember what we traded it in for. We got I've had so many different vehicles. Traded it in, lost thousands of dollars on it.
Ah.
Um, the second, I'll add a quick second. The second one that I gave into, I had been bugging my wife for years about getting a pickup truck because I'm a man from a small town and I need to have a pickup truck,
Of
right?
course, absolutely.
Naturally. So we get settled into North Dakota. We find, hey, we got a few extra $1,000. My wife says, hey, you want a truck? I said, absolutely. And I got onto Craigslist and I found a truck and went and looked at it, test drove it, and said, absolutely, I want it. Never mind that it was a rusty bucket of crap.
Oh, no.
I can't tell you how many different times I would close the tailgate and a chunk of the truck would literally fall off. It was
Oh,
that
no.
rusty. But
Oh.
I totally gave into the emotion of I've always wanted this and I have money. My wife says I can do it. I'm going for it. I don't care what it is. I'm just going for it.
Oh. It's, Cars are really emotional. I think that people don't, um, maybe people who aren't car people, I don't even know if I'd classify you as a true car person. You know what I mean? Like, we are car people in the sense that we have cars that we don't need. We do not need them. They serve if I sold 2 of the cars in my driveway today, we would still be totally fine. That's how many cars we have. We don't have any teenagers in the house. No one's driving them except my husband and me. We don't need all of them. But we have them because we like them and they have bigger
Yeah,
engines and we'll take them at different times. And that's a luxury a lot of people don't need or want. They don't want 6 vehicles to take care of.
right.
But when it's even when it's your daily driver, it's just so emotional. I don't know why. We should do like a
Yeah,
study on people and their their emotional attachment to cars, even when they're not car people per se. They're not
right.
going to car shows every weekend. They're not buying an old Corvette or whatever. But it's so true. And like the is it because it's something you get most places in the country, right? You're getting into it every single day, multiple times a day. Is it, but I just feel like people get more emotional about their cars than their houses.
Yeah, I would say so. I think in large part it's just I mean, as those that listen to, or at least used to listen to Dave Ramsey years ago, he used to talk all the time about, your car is your status symbol,
Yeah,
right? When
that's
you when
true.
you when you're driving down the street and you see someone pull up, I mean, here in Austin, I see people and there's Porsches everywhere, there's Ferraris. I just went to a 4th of July parade and there was about 7 or 8 Ferraris that were in that parade.
Wow, I would
Ab-
not
I
have.
I loved it.
Yeah, no, it's great, but I mean, it's good to look
But
at because I'm not paying for it, but
right,
I would if you said what car did I see the most of during a parade in Austin, that would have been the last car. The last
right,
car I named.
right. But mentally though, we see that and we think, wow, that person's got money. That person's got it made,
True.
right? And so if we want people to think a certain way about us in our country and our society, we do it through a car.
We do it through
What
cars.
kind of what
Yeah.
kind of car am I driving?
Yeah. And then we could even narrow it down further. Is this just an American thing? You know,
Yeah,
in Europe, a lot of the cars there are um, designed to fit into very small parking spaces and they're not pretty looking, right? And,
yeah.
a smart car might be the best looking compact car over there in Europe. So are they more economical with their cars versus emotional? So is it really an American thing too? So, whatever it is definitely the cause of a lot of people's heartache when I work with them on their budgets, whether it's a $800 car payment or buying something that we didn't look closely enough into and now it needs a lot of work and yeah,
Yeah.
causes a lot of stress for sure.
When
So would
I
you
was
have done
also,
anything differently for either of those situations?
yeah, not giving into my emotion.
In both cases.
In both cases,
Okay.
not let my emotion be my reasoning for making a decision.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, with the first vehicle, it was as simple as doing some research and realizing, oh, people drive sedans every day up there, regardless of the weather. People still drive sedans, and they
Interesting.
do just fine.
Yeah.
And when I got up there, and after I sold, I put a bunch of money into my truck to make it more desirable to for someone else to purchase, and I sold it, and I bought a sedan, and
Mm,
I drove a sedan.
there you go. And you didn't
So,
die.
and I didn't die. And I got a lot of flack for the specific sedan that I bought because so once I was 100% on the path of I am never getting a car loan again, I bought a Saturn, what was it? A Saturn Ion.
Oh my gosh, they don't even make those
And
anymore.
they don't even make them anymore, right? I bought it off of a guy who had got it uh, a an
Auction or
auction, a
yeah,
car auction. Yeah,
yep.
and the what was it? The air conditioner was was going bad, and so every time I would start it up, it made a terrible noise. Uh, the fuel line cracked at one point and was
Mm,
spraying fuel every time I drove it. Um, Repaired both of those things. The odometer didn't work, so I had no idea how many miles were on it.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but I drove that thing every day to work, and I got told almost every day at work that I needed to get rid of that piece of crap car. That's putting it lightly, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it actually drove me to the point that I ended up deciding that I was going to drive that car, that it was reliable enough. I was going to drive that car from Grand Forks, North Dakota, which, if you don't know where that is, it's about an hour south of the Canadian border and as far east in North Dakota as you can get.
Gotcha.
And I was going to drive it the 18 hours down to central Utah, where my family is, with my wife and 2 kids.
Did it make it?
Absolutely, it made it. Made it there. I replaced the AC. I went with my father-in-law to a pick and pull. We
Oh,
pulled an AC unit off of an AC pump off of an old junked Ion.
oh my
Threw it on
gosh.
mine. The sound was gone. I drove it through a pretty big snowstorm in Idaho. I was going to visit some family in Idaho on that trip. And while everybody was hanging out in the right lane doing like 20 miles an hour, I'm in that Ion doing 35, 40, just cruising through the snow
It's true.
all the
It
way back
doesn't
to
need
North
to
Dakota.
be right. And you got there safely.
And I got it safely. My wife
Right.
was asking as we were driving down, she's like, what if it does actually blow up and we have to pull off the side of the road? And I said, well, we've got an emergency fund.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got an
We'll just,
emergency fund and, yeah, if you're on the side of the road, let's get you off the side of the road first and worry about it later. But you have the emergency fund sitting there.
yep, yep.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
I wasn't worried about it at all. And like I said, I drove it down there and I drove it right back. And as soon as I went back to work, I rubbed it in everybody's faces. I said, I told you it was a good car.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, JD, we really appreciate you sharing your dumbest thing with us. And if anybody wants to contact JD about his coaching services at Hero Financial Life Coaching, all that information is in the show notes and you can reach out to him there. So thanks again for being on Lessons Learned, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.